8.5, using Nose for test discovery. Nose is a fully featured third-party tool for test discovery and test running. We're going to look specifically at its code coverage plugin feature and how to run multiple tests across multiple processes to take advantage of a parallel processing environment. Nose is a third-party tool available via pip and the Python package index. It does basically the same job as unit test's discover command, but it supports a great deal more control and customization, as well as recognizing a wider range of tests. We're going to look at two specific features among the many that Nose provides. It can generate a code coverage report to tell us how much of our code our tests actually tested, and it can run tests across multiple processes, allowing them to execute in parallel on multiple CPUs. In order to get a coverage report, we first need to make sure that the coverage module is installed. We can do that with a simple pip command. Once we have the coverage module in place, we can enable coverage report for our tests with nothing more than a couple of Nose command line options. Strictly speaking, only the with coverage option is required to enable a coverage report, but if we don't include cover erase as well, coverage data from previous test runs will get mixed in with our current run, which makes the results harder to interpret. There's a third coverage-related command line option that's sometimes useful. That is the cover package option, which narrows the code coverage report to only a specific package. Focusing the report in this way makes it easier to read and extract useful information. The other Nose feature we're looking at here is the ability to farm out tests to multiple worker processes, and thus spread them across available CPU cores. To do that, we just have to provide the processes command line option, and tell it how many processes to use. If we pass -1 for the number of processes, it uses the detected number of CPU cores, which is probably what we want anyway. So unless we have a specific reason to do otherwise, we should always just use -1. However, as you've just seen demonstrated on the screen, the farming out of tests through multiple processes can sometimes cause surprising things to happen. In this case, combining it with code coverage, which I forgot to disable, produced the errors. The code coverage module is not compatible with being split across multiple processes simultaneously. And since I have it turned on by default in my system's configuration, it tripped me up. Having now disabled the coverage tests, you can see the multi-process test running. If you look carefully, you may have noticed that the suite actually took longer to run as multiple processes. That's because the tests themselves are very low effort, but launching a worker process is not. Fortunately, that's a fixed cost, so when we start running a larger test suite containing more expensive tests, we start to see benefits of parallel execution. This was just a taste of some of the features that Nose supports, and that's without writing our own Nose plugins to customize it further. It's a very capable system. So if we find ourselves needing a particular feature from our test runner, a good first step is to see if Nose already has it. So Nose looks for the word test to find tests, but it can recognize them in places where unit test wouldn't, like for example, the word Nose test, with the test as a later segment of the name. If we use the with coverage and cover erase command line options, we can get a nice coverage report for our tests if coverage is installed. Meanwhile, the processes equals -1 command line option lets us split the test suite across multiple available processor cores.